rice imports and rice exports rather, not rice imports, we don't need that just as yet, we have bountiful of rice in India, but rice exports. Weeks after banning exports of non-basmati rice, the government has now come to an understanding that people perhaps could be bypassing this by pushing out rice that is non-exclusive basmati and calling it basmati. So there is now a clause that you cannot export rice at less than $1,200 a ton. If it's basmati, that's the price.
Yeah. So even basmati rice that is being exported at less than $1,200 per ton, dollars per ton, is not allowed anymore. So all those people who are playing fair also will have to be part of it.
No, but essentially I think government has come to this understanding that this is the minimum price at which basmati should be sold.
But there was, of course, so they have very clear reports that there was a lot of misrepresentation when it came to exporters who were pushing non-basmati rice, and government has gotten aggressive when they have to in their fight against inflation. Now, if you see a timeline, and they have had 2 bad years, so they started imposing export bans on wheat way back as last year. This year, since June, if my records are right, yeah, June, the stock holding limit on tur and dal was imposed. In June itself, stock holding limits on wheat was imposed. Now, these are measures to curb fight inflation. 40% export duty on onions, that came after, later on. 20% duty on parboiled fine rice, that came. Ban on white rice exports came in July itself, and this is the latest one.
Right.
That $1,200 below cost price of basmati rice cannot be exported.
Right. And essentially this is all to not just ensure that there is enough supply of rice within India, but also to ensure that people who are perhaps subverting the law by selling non-basmati rice at less than $1,200 a ton will not be able to do so anymore. I'm just a little worried about what happens of the global rice, whether there's going to be enough supply, whether there's going to be a shortage, because India is a major exporter and a major player when it comes to rice in the world.
So, Shweta, what do they tell us in airlines? In case of an emergency, wear the oxygen mask yourself before offering help to others, right? Okay. So, I think when it comes to meeting domestic demand, the responsibility of the government of India is to Indian citizens, right? And Indian citizens residing in India. So, I think very simply put, of course, solve your own problem first, and thereafter, if there is surplus capacity available, use it to benefit your neighbors, use it to benefit your friends, but not at the cost of your own people having to pay more money. This becomes even more prominent, obviously, in the run-up to elections, because inflation, food inflation, is something that impacts everybody. You can't be in a situation where you're letting rice export outside of the country at whatever best competitive prices at the cost of Indians paying exorbitantly high prices for essentials like basmati.
No, I'm not sure how much rice prices have varied in the last 1 year. Amit, if you have any idea of whether rice prices were also hiked, whether there was a shortage of rice supply.
Was not double digits, it was in single digits, late single digits, about 9.5, 9.8% on an average.
So this was more of a preemptive measure.
No, but even 9% is fairly high when you compare it to overall headline inflation at about 7.4%. Rice inflation, cereal inflation, dal inflation, all of that coming at about late single digits is a fairly high inflation number. So the idea is to contain inflation in any case down to 4%. Within that, food inflation becomes a very, very essential component. But any rate higher than the regular core inflation rate on a particular item, which is an essential, is a problem for the government and needs to be hemmed in.
And I think yes.
Rice became dearer also because there's a 15% jump in rice exports this year, which is quite unprecedented. So obviously either there is a scarcity or the exporters are getting better prices because of the scarcity. So that had to be curbed because it
had to be curbed.